guys, I was just checking my closet for any secret passages. You know, there are a lot of old houses in the US, and people have found some pretty weird hidden places that you wouldn't think would be there. Hidden doors under their beds, secret doors behind wallpaper, and that's actually what this story that I'm going to read to you guys today is going to be about. A couple goes down to their wine cellar to do some renovations, remove some wallpaper, and finds some door that they're not expecting to be there. I hope you guys like this one. This is actually a pretty old one that's even been adapted into a series of a television show. This is a story with a very, very, very long title. Here it is. This is, I found a hidden door in my cellar and I think I've made a big mistake. Yeah, that's seriously the title, I'm not kidding. I hope you guys enjoy it.
My wife and I have lived in our house for around 5 years, and in that time we've probably been down into the cellar a handful of times. Our house is an old Victorian terrace house, and so the cellar is cold and damp, mainly because my wife liked the idea of telling people we had a wine cellar. But it got annoying going down there every time, so we stopped using it. There's only the two of us living here, so we never really needed to use it for storage space. A few weeks ago, we decided we were going to renovate it, maybe turn it into a mini gym or something. So during the weekend, we went down and began cleaning it up. The cellar has a stone floor, but the walls were covered in this horrible yellowed floral wallpaper. It looked old as hell, and I assumed it was put up decades ago. So we began to strip the wallpaper, and that's when we found the door. Covered up with wallpaper, the door was set into the wall. It was plain wood, and the door handle had been removed so that it was flat. We were pretty stumped at how we hadn't noticed this before. How had it blended in so well with the rest of the wall? But at this point, I was pretty excited that we found a secret door, so I largely overlooked its oddness. All the houses on our street have cellars, so I assumed it must be an old doorway leading through to the next door's cellar. We decided that we'd go around to our neighbor's house tomorrow morning and tell him about the doorway, and suggest we brick it up or something. I didn't really feel comfortable about having this access point into our house. My wife tried to look through the small circle hole in the door where the handle had been removed, but it was pitch black in there. So because we're nosy, we used the torch on her phone to peek through the hole. My wife looked first. She suddenly went still. "This doesn't go into the next door's cellar," she said slowly, moving back from the door. I frowned and took her phone, looking for myself. Instead of the cellar, there were stone steps leading downwards. I couldn't see very far with the light from my phone, so I brought down my big flashlight and managed to get the door open. We looked down the stairs with the flashlight. They were very long, and at the end of the stairway was another door. This one looked really old. Wooden panels kept together with metal columns. It even had one of those metal ring handles. It didn't make sense how this could be here. Even though it was going down, the beginning of the stairway would still cut into the next door's cellar. We'd been in his cellar for drinks a few times, which had been done up into a game room with a bar and pool table, and I had never noticed a big jut out from the wall that would cover a stairway, or that it was smaller than our cellar if there was a whole wall blocking it off. My wife thought we should probably talk with him before going down and left, but I was too curious about the whole thing, so I took my flashlight and went down. I tried the handle, and it was a bit stiff, but I was completely took by surprise that it opened. I shone my light inside. It was a concrete room, similar looking to our cellar, but smaller, and this was the only entrance or exit I could see. I waved the flashlight around and nearly jumped out of my skin. There was a man stood at the brick wall, facing the wall, his back to me. He was completely still, wearing a black suit and a black-rimmed hat. The man was so still that I began to think he might have been a mannequin, until he slowly lifted one foot. I stood, transfixed, my light trained on him. It was just bright enough to illuminate his body, but the rest of the room was in complete darkness. He held his foot still in the air, before slowly moving it a step backwards. His movements were unnatural and jerky, like someone who didn't fully understand how to walk. He stayed like that for a moment, completely still, one foot placed back. Then he lifted his other foot in the same jerky movement. This time when he stepped back, his foot slammed on the floor. The sound shook me out of my frozen state and I jumped back. As soon as I moved, it was like I'd triggered something, and suddenly he was moving so quick. He was running backwards towards me, his legs jerking around unnaturally. Writing this down, it sounds kind of funny, but at the time it was utterly terrifying. I've never seen someone move that way before. I instinctively threw the flashlight at him. Maybe I thought I could knock him out or something. I honestly don't know. And I legged it back up the stairs, slamming the door shut behind me and running up the stairs leading out of the cellar, slamming that door shut too. I hesitated by the door, barricading it with my arm, trying to control my breathing and understand what I just witnessed. I heard the sound of the door push open in the cellar, and then what sounded like a huge lump of flesh dragging across the floor. I thought I began to hear what sounded like a low hissing noise, at which point I ran out of the house yelling my wife's name. She was stood in front of the step of our neighbor's house, talking to him. I grabbed her and pulled her to the other side of the road, yelling for my neighbor to get away from the house. Without waiting to explain to them what I saw, I grabbed my phone and called the police. We all stood there in the dark, my neighbor in his robe and slippers, looking at the house. After a few moments, I saw the lights that we'd left on flicker through the kitchen window, and then they went out completely. All I remember was holding my wife's hand so tightly, looking up at our dark windows, and waiting for the police to arrive. They found no one in the house, but the cellar door was open, and so was our back door. They checked our garden but found no one, and no footprints or signs of someone being there. They brought a team over to check out the hidden room we found. My neighbor claimed no knowledge of the room, and that he too couldn't understand how the stairs of the room could possibly exist, could fit in between our two cellars. The police couldn't explain it any more than we could. I didn't ever want to go back in there, so they showed us photos of the walls inside the room. The concrete was carved with symbols, and they found what looked like centuries-old dried blood. They had the symbols sent over to our local university's history department, but no one knew what they meant. They sealed off the room, and we've never gone down into the cellar again. I think I made a huge mistake that day in opening that door and going into that room. I think I set something free that day, something that someone had locked up for a reason, and I don't think it's good.
Well, I can rest easy tonight. There are definitely no weird guys standing in the corner of my closet in there. Yeah, I actually really like this story. Like I said, it's been adapted into a season of a television show called Channel Zero, which I do plan on covering at some point in the future. So look forward to that. I hope you guys like this one, and I will definitely see you guys in my next creepypasta reading, which should be out sooner than this one was. Let's go ask the Ouija board what it's going to be.
Alright, Ouija board. Let's give our viewers a teaser at what we'll be reading next time. Bonnie? Who's Bonnie?